Welcome to the Holistic Soul Sisters Radio, a channel created to help you heal holistically and grow spiritually. I'm your host, Mandy Rose. I'm not afraid to talk about taboo subjects, so nothing is off limits here. Make sure you hit subscribe and get ready to learn more from me and other experts on all things health, spirituality, astrology, lifestyle, relationships, and so much more. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's begin. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Holistic Soul Sister Radio. And in this episode, we are continuing our energetic healing mini-series. And we are moving on to the episode that I know so many of you have been waiting for. And that is our episode where we're going to feature a medium who is going to break some misconceptions. She's going to share some information and help guide us on how we can heal ourselves energetically using a medium as a resource. So welcome to this episode, Holly. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me, Mandy Rose.
I am so glad that we connected. You know, this is divine intervention. I made a phone call for a vendor event. You picked up the phone, and somehow our conversation led into doing this podcast within 48 hours. So I'm honored to have you here. And we talked a little bit, and you're a woman of many talents. So what I love most that you were sharing with me is that you went from being an RN to moving into the energetic healing space. So for our audience, can you share how that journey evolved for you? Because I don't think many people would relate being a nurse to then becoming a medium. So can you share your journey with us?
Yes, I can. Thank you for your compliments. I feel so loved. So my journey started with spirituality when I was coming out of high school. So even though I became a nurse, I was already kind of into spirituality and metaphysical things. So I definitely picked up on the fact that, you know, I was always a healer, and I really wanted to incorporate that with what I did for work, because around that time I was really into quotes. And I think it was a quote by Alan Watts. I don't know his name, but I think it's Alan Watts. But I heard it, and it was just like, you know, for work, we should do what we love, or something to that effect, because everyone needs to work. But I can't remember the exact quote.
Yeah,
but
I totally love that. I love that.
It was something like that, you know, touched me. And I said, well, what can I do that can heal others and still be able to make enough money so that I can, you know, survive and not eat ramen noodles as a college student? So I became a nurse, and eventually, you know, I just wasn't really into bedside care anymore. It wasn't that I didn't, you know, like healing others and caring for them. I just felt like, you know, a lot of companies that I worked for were very corporate, and I really just didn't like the traditional medicine setting, because I felt like there wasn't like a lot of room to advocate for patients and heal them holistically. And it was almost like, you know, to heal someone was like an algorithm type thing. So I ventured into starting my own home care business, and I worked in hospice for a little bit, which I loved as a medium, to be able to connect the two. And now I actually am doing several community nursing projects, and I also own a staffing agency, and I work with like-minded individuals to help, you know, care for others. And I guess like in, you know, the long-term effect of things, I'm trying to make a difference like in the medical world and incorporate these natural things, these spiritual things, these holistic things, not to break, you know, patient boundaries or anything, but just because I feel like, you know, it's more authentic to care for someone that way, because everyone's so different, and I don't like putting others in a box.
I love that. And you made such a good point that I think a lot of nurses can probably relate to, is that, you know, most nurses are very empathic people. You know, they want to heal. They feel the pain for their patient, and therefore they're amazing at their jobs. You know, they're just boxed in by rules and bureaucracy and modalities, and you know, they can feel like trapped in that when their heart is so great. And that's really cool that you did like the hospice, right? Because when you look at mediums, oftentimes mediums are sought out to talk to people on the other side, after they've passed over. So to be in that space with people as they're going through their last, time here on Earth, what a cool experience, huh?
Yeah, it was actually pretty cool. I mean, as far as like my mediumship with hospice, like it didn't go the way that I expected it in terms of like, I thought that, I would be using my mediumship like after they passed to help families kind of, move on. But it was kind of like more intuitive, like when they were going to pass and kind of like, setting them up for that transition and helping them like beforehand. I really didn't have any experiences like after they passed, like I thought I would.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
so interesting. So you were just even learning as you were growing.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
It's awesome. So we've been doing this mini series on this podcast called Energetic Healing, right? So we talk all about how we overlook the energetic part of our physical issues. And, it's perfectly in line when you were in nursing school and then in like the field, a lot of it is talking about physical issues and symptoms and then the pill for the ill, but there's no conversation about the energetic imbalance that we experience. So that's really what our whole podcast this mini series is dedicated to. So can you explain in your words, and then obviously from your experience too, what you think it means to heal energetically?
I think it means, clearing out, old stagnant energy, negative, toxic things and other things that no longer serve you. Getting better, like rejuvenating yourself, rejuvenating your soul, and really just making room for, the positive energies to come in.
Definitely, definitely. And because you have the nursing background, and then you said you do Reiki as well, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
So you've seen people like where they've probably had a specific illness and they're doing everything, by the books to heal. And then they use some form of energetic healing. And then all of a sudden, everything kind of seems to like lift and alleviate. Can you kind of share like a story you've seen from that, or kind of give like your perspective on how that works?
Yes, definitely. I have many stories, but I will limit it to, um, the two top experiences that I have really seen energy work, like, heal versus traditional medicine or medication or, treating things like typically according to, medical research or things like that. So, a couple of things. So, the first thing I'm going to start with was COVID-19. I did a couple of assignments, nursing assignments, that is, back in 2020 when COVID was really just starting to come out and everything. And I definitely had, contact with COVID patients. I worked in the COVID unit, and there were a couple of people that kind of just did their own things because I was working in like an ALF type nursing home situation. So with that, I mean, there's some people that have, families that are really involved, and then there's the other people that they're just kind of there. So a lot of families kind of like, stepped in and did things like holistically, especially with, breath work, and also with, meditation and sound healing. And those patients that participated in that, I noticed that they had less complications, and they could definitely, bounce back quicker. And I just thought that was so interesting because, when it comes to COVID, like there back then, I mean, it's better now, but back then we were running out of ventilators. We were running, out of resources. It was really crazy. The medical world didn't know what to do. And in the nursing field, I kind of, saw a lot of people going back to energetic work and to holistic things and natural remedies. And, I definitely feel like it did open a lot of people's eyes to the side of medicine. So that's the first one. And then the second one was definitely, when I was working in hospice, because in hospice, we have an algorithm for medication. When someone is in pain, we actually have to give them morphine or, something for anxiety. Well, at this particular hospice that I was working for, they actually use Reiki and guided meditation and guided imagery. So, it was very interesting to find that the people that had received Reiki or participated in the guided imagery and meditation, their pain symptoms were actually decreased more than those that were on morphine or other opioids.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I have goosebumps, like you just sharing that about the COVID. That was wow. And I'm so happy to hear that, because when we are running out of like the traditional resources, we always have these resources available, and that was a big thing we talked about in the energetic healing mini series is we always have the energy of the sun. We always have the energy of sound. We have the energy of our own body that we can shift and shape, and it's all free, and it's an infinite resource to us. So that is like a perfect example. And I'm so happy to hear that happen. And then as far as the hospice, and the pain, that's phenomenal. Like, and when people participated in it, was it something that they, kind of knew about, or were they just like, okay, whatever you suggest, like I'm open to it? How did that go?
It was a mixture of both because a lot of these people, they mentally, they weren't there, but you can tell when they're in pain by doing a nursing assessment and intuitively as well. But some people that were alert and oriented, they just wanted the service because it was offered, and they ended up finding that, hey, this is better than the morphine. This is, this calms me down more than the Ativan. And even those that were nonverbal, you can just, sense a change in their energy, and those, nursing symptoms decrease that are associated with pain and anxiety. So it was just really amazing. Yeah, I'd like to add, so like even if people aren't, spiritual, I would say that yes, these resources are, around us. But if you really look at the, underlying principles, it's just, using natural things, using the earth and all it has to offer. I mean, yes, there is a spiritual, metaphysical aspect to it, as you know, but like it's kind of, I always like to tell people and like try to, shift their perspective a little bit that, you don't have to think of it as, I'm getting spiritual, I'm doing this and that. Like you're just using the earth and all it has to offer. It's, it's natural.
Yes, I love that you bring that point up, because that is something that I hear very often is, I don't believe in a spirituality. I don't believe in this. And, I do a lot of astrology. So some people will say, I don't believe in that. And I always say, well, it's a lot like gravity. You don't have to believe in it. It's just happening anyways. And so, the light that we get and the sound that we hear and the energy that we feel, like you walk into a room and you sense energy, it exists and it's there. And it's, up to each of us if we want to utilize it or how we want to utilize it. So I'm so glad you brought that up. And, we discuss in this mini series a lot about the chakra system and how each chakra is related to different organ systems, emotions, colors, sounds, all these things. And you practice Reiki. So I know that Reiki uses the chakras a lot to find imbalances and then to, rebalance. So can you explain a little bit about like Reiki and how it uses the chakra systems, kind of connect the dots for people from the energetic side of it to the physical side of it?
Yeah. So with Reiki, there's so many different types of Reiki. But, and a gist of everything to keep it condensed. So Reiki is basically you're tapping into someone's energy within their chakras, and you're, sensing whether the chakras are blocked or, intuitively what's just going on. And you send healing energy. It depends on the type of Reiki, but there's different symbols. I use Karuna of Reiki myself. But, starting out before I had any knowledge or really became a Reiki master, I really just used my mediumship and intuitive abilities to do like an energy scan and just send, positive energy. That can be a form of Reiki as well without, going into depth. But it's definitely, I would say, just an energy exchange between two people to correct someone's energy and help align their chakras, because the chakras are our energy source.
Yeah, that's awesome. You explain that really well. Like, so it's just this energy that we kind of help move. And it goes back to exactly what we were talking about at the beginning of this episode, is that energy, it's just moving and clearing the stuck and stagnant and old and toxic things out to give space to like the new fresh energy that we use as like life source. Is that correct?
Yes, that's perfect.
Oh, okay. I love that. And so, yeah, it sounds like you've really kind of used your mediumship to navigate your whole life, whether it was your career or, whatever. So I'm really excited to really dive into the rest of this episode, all about your mediumship abilities, to pick your brain on all of this. I know so many people have this gift, and are either unaware of it or have felt it, but then kind of shove it back down. And it's really actually becoming something that more people are discussing, and it's becoming more mainstream. So I really, really love that it's not so scary to talk to mediums anymore. So let's break up some misconceptions. Let's dive into all of that, because I know everyone's been waiting for this topic. So maybe let's start out with, a lot of people are unfamiliar with the whole field of mediums, psychics, channels, guides, all of that stuff. And sometimes people are even a little fearful of it. So what do you think are some really common misconceptions that people have regarding like mediums that you've heard before?
Well, I'll tell you what I heard, and I'll tell you what I've experienced. Both
Okay.
have been really unpleasant, but it's kind of like, what you put out, you attract. And I've met some awesome people that have been definitely accepting of me. There's, a lot of resources in the community that, have definitely made me feel welcome and not like a weirdo. But, the biggest misconception that I have heard, and, I grew up in like a Baptist household, was that, this ability is something related to the devil, or I'm a devil worshiper, or I'm a witch because I know things, or satanic. And, that can be very hurtful, but I think it comes back to a lot of ignorance, and, people can believe what they want to believe. And I've never been the type to force people to believe in certain things, but that's just mainly what I've heard. And I've also have been accused of having, like mental health issues like schizophrenia, especially as a child, overactive imagination, you know, ADHD as well, because, some of the symptoms like associated with being a medium or having some type of healing ability is that because of all the energy running through you and all of the frequencies, you can be on edge or you can just be very, alert and have some of the symptoms of ADHD. A lot of people are actually misdiagnosed with autism and things like that. So I definitely got hit with mental health issues and I got, hit with the religious side of things. And, just I would like to say that I don't know if you've seen the movie Paranorman, but that's kind of like how it was for me. But a lot of things that I hear on like, social media and things before being a medium was cool or having abilities, you know, were really cool was that, I'm a witch.
Yep.
So, I mean, or I'm evil, or I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm just crazy.
Yep. Wow.
I mean, I am crazy, but
We
not like
all are.
that.
We all are a little crazy. Wow. Okay. So thank you for sharing that because, that is something that is difficult to be told and then to still kind of stay true with yourself and say, no, I'm not crazy. This is real, and that takes a lot of bravery. And then to end up actually using it and having a platform and creating that, like your journey is incredible because it's never easy. The other misconception I think I hear a lot from, the outside and then also now being in the spiritual community is that a lot of mediums are like making it up, right? Like they're just, they have their own agenda and they like tell people what they want to hear and it's not real. Have you ever heard that one?
Yeah, and I also like to add that like for the people that are kind of open to it, they always assume that mediums have the same ability. Like it's just like, oh, you guys are all the same. They don't really know that, there's different types of, mediumships and that, you know, just because someone's a medium doesn't mean that they are clairvoyant or, that they can talk to spirits or that they are empathic and stuff like that. So that's like a misconception, like within the community, of people that don't really have psychic education. So that's really cool that you brought that up. But yeah, I've been told that before. I'll be giving a reading, and they're like, "You're making that up." You saw my Facebook, or you heard like me talking, or something like that, and it's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And I really do think, with anything in life, is a lot of these misconceptions just come from not having a resource to learn from or not having enough knowledge about the topic. And so that's why I really love doing podcast episodes like that, where we can kind of like break through that taboo and be like, hey, let's actually like learn about it. Let's figure out what's actually going on. So I'm glad that you brought up about like the different ways of reading energy, because I believe, and I'm sure you agree, that every single one of us is intuitive in a way. We all get messages, even those of us who are extremely religious. You still, speak with God and God speaks to you in different ways, right? That is an ability to be downloaded with information or to have this intuition, and it's different for everyone. So for me, it's through like astrology and birth chart readings, but I also love to read like oracle cards. That's how I have to physically touch things and I have to like see symbols that I can interpret with my intuition. So can you share kind of like the different gifts that are out there, and maybe some people listening will identify and be like, oh, I didn't know that gift is considered intuition or mediumship. So can you kind of like share some different ones? And then I would love to hear what your special gift is.
Yeah. So I'd like to say that everyone definitely is psychic. I do agree with that statement. Now, like in terms of like how strong your psychic ability is, I think that depends on the person and their willingness to accept or explore that side of them. But we definitely are all intuitive. Some people say, oh, I should have followed my first mind. Well, that first mind is connected to your intuition, and it is connected to, source and, angels and your spirit guide or whatever, information needs to come through. And that also relates to the chakras, our solar plexus. So that's very interesting, but that's a different topic for another show.
We could go all into that.
Yeah, but so I'd like to say that people can really decipher what type of medium they are by just really playing around with different divination techniques. And divination techniques are like tools that allow you to, use that psychic energy. I mean, tarot cards and oracle cards are a divination technique. And then you also have the pendulum, and you have some people use playing cards, dominoes, runes, and also, people use psychometry, which is kind of what you were talking about, of kind of like having things in your hands and feeling that energy. Forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but I think it's psychometry or psychometry, whatever. But yeah, so that's kind of what that's about. And then you also have like crystals. So like, okay, you have your crystals where you use for different energetic purposes, but there's also like certain types of crystals, like crystal balls and stuff that you can look into. That's something that's really associated with like psychic abilities in the old days. Look into my crystal ball. That's actually a divination technique. And then one of my favorites, what got me started on my journey using my psychic energy is, like writing, journaling. You kind of go into that automatic writing where you just let things flow, and sometimes messages come through that way. So those are some things to kind of play around with. But as far as, the different psychics and abilities, I like to call them the four C's. All the clairs.
All
I want like a chocolate eclair talking about the clairs. So okay, you have clear cognitive, you have clairsentient, you have clairvoyant, and you have clairaudient. So clairaudient is when you hear things like kind of like in your head, or you hear voices, or it's more like an audio thing. You receive messages through songs, or you see things and you're like, oh, I heard a quote, and you can take messages off of that. And then the clairsentient, that's more of the empathic thing where, you feel and you go based off your feelings. And then for a clairvoyant, that's when you can actually see, the act of seeing things, seeing into the future, seeing, things very vivid and clear with your third eye. And then for the clear cognitive, that's just knowing things, like you just know. Like, and for me personally, I have all four, but I mean, it's kind of hard to like really narrow down my abilities because they have been growing so much. And, everybody goes through, growth in their psychic abilities. You can always make them stronger. And also throughout your life, you'll discover things that you didn't know that you had. So like I recently discovered that I was a trance medium, which is basically where, okay, so this is a taboo statement, but it's not what you think. So it's almost like, it's compared to possession, but it's not possession. It's just where, you're used as like an energy vessel, which is basically what we as mediums do. But with trance medium, it's more of a stronger effect. So I have actually been able to do trance mediumship recently, and I actually use that for working with my herbs or making balms or doing some of my healing practices. But I um, do readings. I do tarot readings, and I also am learning more about psychometry and feeling things. Like I'm drawn to it, so I'll have like weird phases in my life where I'll like be drawn to different divination or psychic ability. And then like I think that's just a part of growing. Like how about you, Mandy? Like do you ever like, feel those urges like within your abilities, or like how have you grown?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up because that's something I've been kind of working through within myself. And I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that are kind of experiencing the same thing. So when I first realized that I had these intuitive abilities, I just always kind of had that knowing. Like I just knew what the right decision was for me. I kind of like would know that things were going to happen to other people before. And of course, people would just say that I'm a conspiracy theorist or I'm crazy or, I had a bad dream or whatever it was. So that's how it kind of just started. But as I accepted that that was my truth and who I was, I first got into oracle cards. I didn't even touch the tarot deck. I just love the idea of like taking my cards, blessing them and then pulling a card and getting a message. And this was like when I was going through a very healing, sick, dark night of the soul journey. And I was really, really low. So I was just grasping at straws for like just messages from the universe. So I got really good at reading my oracle cards. And then I like would do readings for friends. And then finally, after a year, I went to the tarot deck. And it was a big jump for me because I felt like the tarot deck was a lot more energy, more information. And I even had a resistance to it, even though I'm totally spiritual. I believe in all of this energy. I just kind of had this apprehension, like, what am I going to uncover within myself? What am I going to like? What's going to happen next? So that was my next leap. And I'm so glad I did that because everything grew stronger from there. And then I went into my pendulum, and that has been my biggest tool, is using the pendulum when it comes to checking chakras and other people, checking my own chakra, making decisions, doing like the yes and the no, and a lot of like that body energy work. So now it's like really into the pendulum, and I'm kind of excited to see where it goes next. Reiki has been something a lot of people have suggested I try next, but I don't really have a call to it. So I'm just trying to honor where I'm at. I know my energetic boundaries aren't really strong yet. So that's probably a reason why I'm not being drawn. But just kind of like you said, following the path and saying, okay, let's see what happens next, or, not rushing into it. And I think a lot of people hear about being a medium and say, I'm intuitive and I want to be a medium. And they kind of like push when maybe they just haven't taken the little steps to get to that place. I don't know if you've probably experienced that too.
Yeah, I definitely have experienced that. I was really bad at absorbing other people's energy. Last year was a really big lesson for me in terms of energetic boundaries, which is very important as a medium or as like, a Reiki master or, anything dealing with healing. Because, if you take on someone else's energy, I mean, that can really affect you mentally and, physically, especially if you do have abilities. So I've really, learned that after the fact. I wish that I had some type of knowledge on how to better protect myself, because sometimes it just isn't okay. You get selenite and that's it. Selenite is a really great tool, but as you advance, you really have to kind of learn how to block out or not absorb someone's energy, and really just clearing someone's energy. Like, after you do a reading, I had a really bad habit of just saying, okay, yeah, I'm done with the reading, and not really, cleansing myself after the reading. And, you hold on to people's energy from the reading. And it was just a really big lesson, but I definitely can relate and understand to you not wanting to move in that direction, because it is a very valid concern. And, also, I'd like to add that, you know, it doesn't matter how many people suggest something. I mean, you have to be ready for that. It's your spiritual journey.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm so glad that you said that. Because that is definitely a conversation I hear from a lot of people is, they want to use these gifts and they get all excited and then they kind of like dive into it. And it's like, it's your journey. It doesn't have to look a certain way. You could be a tarot reader and then try this and you don't align with it. And then you go back to tarot reading. Like there's not one gift or one modality that makes you more superior in being able to help and heal people, right? Because I think that there's sometimes this misconception too, and we talk about misconceptions is, oh, someone who reads oracle cards, like they can only do so much for me, but like this psychic, they can do this healing and that's going to lead me to my, ultimate healing journey. So, you never know how someone is using their gift and there's no elite system. I think in spirituality is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there's definitely more than one ways to make a sandwich. And I definitely, resonate with what you're saying. And, hitting back to, the Oracle card thing, I started out with Oracle cards. I think that they are a great building tool to help people with their intuition and for people wanting to, one day learn tarot cards. Like Oracle cards are a great tool because, essentially all tarot cards are Oracle cards, but they have the same, meaning. And you have to combine your intuitive skills with the meaning of the card because it's not just with like oracles where they have a clear set, definition. With tarot cards, it's the same meaning, but it can be used to describe different situations. So you kind of have to learn to be really intuitive in how to deliver intuitive messages and really decipher, with your intuition. But oracle cards are a great stepping stone in that. And I'm actually, creating practice oracle cards that are, tarot cards, but have the meaning and everything like that, so that people can, get more comfortable with, that practice or that style, because it really isn't that hard, but it's intimidating because the thing is that you have to memorize what each card means. And, with the oracle cards, there's many themes and it's like spelled out for you.
Oh my gosh, exactly, exactly. And I'm so glad you're doing that because that would have been really resourceful for me to like move into that next step because and this is kind of funny, but it's not funny. I remember getting my, tarot deck and I didn't want to get the classic rider deck. I just wanted something like pretty and sparkly. So I got this Mystic Monday tarot deck. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like holographic on the side, beautiful colors. And so I was like ready to do it. And wouldn't you know, what card do you think I pulled out of the deck? The death card. And I can't even begin to tell you, for 1 week, I had like this huge like panic attack for a week where I was like, I pulled the death card. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, and even though I know that that's not necessarily what the death card means, it was just such a big intimidation for me to like go to this big deck. And then of course the universe gave me that card to teach me the lesson of like, this isn't literal. This is your intuition. Like, don't be a, earth person right now. This isn't literal. And so I learned that lesson right off the bat of following my intuition and not getting all wrapped up in just like what the thing on the card says. That was like tough for me.
I always like feel that way, like when I get certain cards, like even now. And it's just like, oh yeah, let me tap into my intuition. The cards can be very intimidating. And like, a lot of people, I've heard a lot of my friends say, yeah, I didn't get the traditional cards. I got these like cool sparkly ones, or I got, this type, but I don't even know how to use these. Like, with tarot, I love that it's very systematic in a way. And then once you kind of have it down, then you can kind of like graduate to the other cards. And because like certain cards, like they use like they'll have like different meanings for the swords, or the cups, or the pentacles, or the wands, and stuff like that. It can get really fun. But yes, Mandy, like I totally understand that is a valid concern.
I had to learn that. And then, that kind of lines right up with what I was going to ask you next is when it comes to mediums, and kind of helping people get through this, like, taboo about it. A lot of people I hear say they want to go talk to a medium, a psychic, a healer, but they're afraid. They're afraid of what they're going to be told. And so it blocks a lot of people from taking that step. So can you kind of, from, the medium side of it, when people reach out to you and they're afraid of what you have to say, can you kind of help people diminish that fear, or kind of calm them, or maybe just inform them of what a reading like is going to look like, so they don't have to be intimidated?
Yeah. So I first want to say that, as a medium, I never force anyone to get a reading, and I don't think that it's cool. Like, if someone is afraid to do that, like, that's their journey. They don't have to have the reading. But if they really want a reading and they're afraid, that's a different story. Like, I really think that, like, a lot of people, like, they are afraid to know what's going to happen next, or they're afraid of like what's going to be said. With the different types of mediumship readings, it doesn't always have to be, oh, let me tell you about this certain things. I mean, you can do like kind of like a question based reading where it's like Q&A, to kind of like avoid like what you don't want to hear, or you can do like a general reading. They have love readings, career readings. It's really like what the person wants to know. It doesn't have to be like, just a reading where, you just tell all that person's business to them. Because first of all, like, on a deeper level, everyone is divinely protected, and you can't, you know, go into someone's energy to obtain knowledge unless you have their permission anyway. So that's what I always like to tell people as well. But I don't think people should be afraid. I mean, yes, it's new and intimidating, each to their own. But I would say definitely educate yourself a little bit more and be clear with your intentions. If you know you don't want to know a certain thing, like establish those boundaries at the beginning of your reading, or just, ask about what you want to know.
Yeah, that is so good. I love that you bring up that point, because it's interesting, because I have been on both sides of doing the readings, and I see this actually a lot in the medical community, and I'm sure you can relate. Is when people go to the doctor, they feel completely intimidated. It's that person with their research, their knowledge, they're in a white coat, and they're telling me about my body. But oftentimes I know my own body. Like, I know when I'm in pain, and they can say, well, no, you're not really in pain. But I'm like, I'm in pain, right? Same thing when you take it from that perspective into getting like a medium reading. A lot of people are intimidated by the medium, where they think they have all this information and they know everything about me and they're going to tell me all these things. But really, you are a participant in the reading, just like you're a participant in your own healthcare. And so when you go into a reading and you talk to a medium, they're there to help you. They're not there to, you know, tell you things that are going to leave you more anxious or to disrupt your entire life. It's a collaboration. And when you set those boundaries and say, like, I'm here because I want to learn more about this, or I'm in this relationship and I don't know what direction to take it, they're there to help you, right? That it's like, does that seem like kind of a good way to explain it?
Yeah, it does. That really is, a clear cut example of, establishing clear boundaries and being present, and, really not allowing, fear to take over. But in this situation, yeah, it's straightforward.
I like that. I like that. So, what is something that people tend to come to you for when we talk about this energetic healing? I always like to say, if you're having physical issues that don't seem to be resolved by, everything you've tried, maybe try going to a medium and they can figure out what's going on with you energetically. Getting a tarot reading, like there's something underneath all of this. So, do people come to you a lot for like physical issues? Is it relationship? Like, what is something that, okay, if you could maybe just give like a wide example, and then what maybe for you people are drawn towards specifically?
So people come to me for a little bit of everything. I actually do past life readings and past life regression, so they come to me for that. They come to me for relationship, career, um, and just general readings. But because of my nursing background, people also come to me for energy scans or, for advice. So there's a fine line with that. So I don't give medical advice, but I do say, hey, I'm sensing something like, and this region that's going on. Follow up with your doctor or try drinking more water or some type of advice that isn't medical because you know what I always like to tell people is when you're doing a reading, this is what is presented in this time. Everyone has their free wills and their paths can change based on their actions. So just because you say, okay, this is going to happen today, this is today's energy. They may make some type of change or get off the path or whatever, and then it, isn't what the reading was. I mean, eventually it will happen, but not when you picked it up. So I don't like to say, hey, you have cancer, because I don't want to instill fear. And, while that is detected, they may change or after hearing that, make healthier decisions and quit smoking. And then they never get it at all. So, and then you may have people that they hear that and they're just like, oh, okay, whatever. And it develops. But I never, tell anyone what's going on with them medically. I mean, I kind of, just say, give like a general answer. And I'm also not a doctor either. But even if I were a doctor or a nurse practitioner, you shouldn't, really do that. But at the same time, you have to have a boundary because, this is like, healing work. Like you want to let them know what's going on, but you don't want to misdiagnose anyone. And, people, they definitely come to me specifically because a lot of people really love my energy. I'm really open. And because of, my gifts, like I do have a lot of gifts that I have grown into and they're still growing. And everybody else has the opportunity to do the same. It's not like I'm a messiah or anything like that. It's just that I chose to, dive into psychic education. And so I have more, knowledge about certain things because I was drawn to educate myself and really open up to that. But a lot of people love that I'm authentic. There are some psychics out there that, they're really not authentic. Like either they do pretend and it gives like the people that do have good intentions, like, a bad rep, but, a lot of people do take advantage of people and their willingness to open up and they charge large amounts or they don't really help these people. And so I think that people really just appreciate that I am authentic and that, my intentions are pure and I'm willing to help them with anything. And, it's just really a blessing. Like, I used to be really afraid of being a medium because of my childhood and the things that I heard and the misconceptions. But also before I was really educated, like I didn't really know that I was medium. So like I thought, when people are like, I've watched too many scary movies growing up, but I thought when people were like, "Oh, you're a medium or you can see spirits," like I thought that it was like the movie, like you go and there's someone in the closet or anything like that. I didn't know that, it's like you can't see them like in 3D form, but you can sense them. Like it's kind of like you're seeing them with your imagination, like through your third eye. Like they're there and you can see them, but it's like they're like invisible. Like I know that sounds like kind of confusing, but if you really don't know that much about the chakras, like you really wouldn't understand. That's why, everything just comes together with the chakras, with Reiki, with healing energy, like, metaphysical stuff, because it's all a whole. Even with like yoga or oracle cards and the different, divination techniques, it all builds up to something. I just want to say out there to, the audience that, embrace your abilities. I mean, you're not going to have the same abilities as Mandy and I, like, or the next person. And just because you can't do, several things, maybe you can only do one thing. Or maybe you're learning to do more things, but you just have to respect where you are. And sometimes, we get what we get and we can't pitch a fit. I mean, you contribute to, the world in your own unique way, because we all have something unique to offer in this world. Some, have other resources and ways to, drive that point across, but it doesn't matter if you have one or a million abilities. All that matters is that you can help and heal the collective.
Yes, yes, that is so beautifully said. The one thing you didn't touch on much, and I want to double check, is when you do readings for people, are you able to bridge the connection between them and someone that has passed on? Like if they want to connect with their great grandfather or their mother that passed away, is that something that you offer?
Yeah, so I definitely do offer that. Like when I'm doing a general reading, the messages that come through are all on the table. I don't specifically connect to source and find out information about just one topic. It's like everything that needs to come through, whether it's about relationships, love, finances, whatever, or, if someone has passed and they want to come through. So, I definitely have had a lot of people come through when I'm doing readings, and I'll tell the person that's getting the general reading for sure. And, um, something really weird that never happened before actually happened like at the beginning of the year. So I did like a new moon event, and for my new moon events, I typically do like readings and things like that, and the workshop for the new moon. Well, I'm just sleeping, and then at 5:30, I wake up and I'm like flooded with messages, and it was actually someone on the other side for each, person attending. So that's something that will happen as well, but you have to keep those, clear boundaries. But to answer your question, yes, that has happened, Mandy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so probably refreshing, because I think that's something that draws people to mediums and psychics first, is wanting to connect with someone that they're missing. So it's great to know that that is also a gift that you can share with others. I know we are getting close to the end of this podcast, so I would love for you to maybe share a story of one of your favorite sessions and how it helped heal that person. And then after that, I would love for you to share how people can connect with you. I will put obviously all of your information in the show notes, and anyone that is listening that wants to reach out to Holly and you can't find her information, just contact me. I'll connect you guys. But could you please share one of your favorite sessions and how it helped that person, and then tell everyone where they can find you?
Sure, will do. Okay, so my favorite session it actually happened at work when I was doing my travel assignment at the nursing home during COVID-19. Um, when you're in corporate environments, you don't know, if people are, really spiritual or open to mediumship or anything like that, because you have to, be professional. But one of my, nursing supervisors. Like I just kept getting an urging, something was like urging me to tell her like some messages. So, I just went for it. Went to her office for something, and I had the sense that it was okay to tell her because she had crystals on her desk and she had like a little pink Himalayan salt lamp. So it's like, okay, let's see how this goes. I think she's okay with that. So I just open up and start talking to her, and immediately, like, she just bursts into tears, and she's like, "Holy shit!" And like, we just had like this, like, really strong connection during this reading, and it really helped her heal because she heard a lot of things that she needed to know at the time. She, definitely was clear about the fact that our session helped her heal as well, because it definitely shifted her ability to lead, and you could just see that she felt more comfortable. So yeah, but okay, enough blabbing about that. But how people can reach me is they can actually email me. It's contact@hollyvandoren.com. That's HOLLYVANDOREN.com. I also have an Instagram with a link tree. My Instagram is at hvando. That's HVANDO92. And there's a link to my link tree. And yeah, I really appreciate you having me, Mandy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think we definitely debunked a lot of things, brought up so many good topics, and I really hope that all the listeners kind of got a better understanding of what mediums do and how they help, and just energy in general. So thank you for being a part of the Energetic Healing mini-series and taking your time with us today. And I look forward to connecting with you more in the future. And anyone that is looking for their first reading, now you know someone who does it, and I'm excited to kind of see where that goes for you. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into this energetic healing episode with Holly. If you are looking to get in contact with her, you can find her information in the show notes link below. And make sure you hit subscribe, because next week we are coming back with another episode of this energetic healing mini-series where I'm going to be talking all about masculine and feminine energy. If you're just tuning into the energetic healing mini-series and you haven't caught the other episodes, make sure you go ahead and catch up in this mini-series. We talk about everything from chakras to using our sense of smell, sight, sound, touch to heal our body energetically. We talked to a past life regression therapist. We talked about anxiety and parasite cleansing and how those are great first steps to rebalancing your energy. And we are going to end this energetic healing mini-series with a law of attraction coach, Maite. She is amazing. So stay tuned for that. And until then, make sure you keep healing holistically and growing spiritually. I'll catch you in next week's episode.